welcome to CEC lectures. Myself Dr. Preeti Jagmani. I am an associate professor, Department of Computer Science, Aribet College, University of Delhi. So in our previous lecture, we started with the concept of parameter passing, or more specifically we can say passing objects as parameter. And what we have gone through, I'll just have a quick recap and then we'll move forward with our today's lecture. So basically it is the difference when we are passing the primitive types as parameters, or we are passing kind of our objects or references, I can say, as parameters. The your primitive types are strictly we can say passed by value, but when I'm talking about a reference type, it is at a macro level we can say that it is being passed as kind of passed by reference. And actually if you can see Java is kind of doing something, a hybrid between pass by value and pass by reference. So we have also seen just a common syntax of the program, and what was that program, we are going to take that into the detail. So here we have a class test in which we have one constructor which is taking two integer variables and passing the value of these parameters onto the your instance variables, and then there is a function which is named as equals to, and that function is taking the object as the parameter, or the reference type as the parameter, and the reference type here is O, and which is kind of an object to the object of the class test, and it is returning a boolean value. Now what is the functionality of this equals to is, this is actually checking that whether the function, whether the value of the variables of the object which is being passed is equals to the value of the invoking object. So if the both values of the invoking object are equals to the value of the object being passed, then it's returning true, else it is returning false. So this is doing it by the statement if O dot A is equals to A and O dot B is equals to B, then return true, else return false. So when we say O dot A, you understand that means the A variable of the object O, or of the reference type O. And when I am saying just A without prefixing or suffixing it with any of the parameter references, so that actually means that we are here talking about the variable of the object which has kind of invoked this equals to. So how it is going to take place, we have taken one class, and within that class inside the main function we have created three objects of this class test by using this parameterized constructor. So one is the object OB1 having values 120, 100 and 22. Another object is OB2, it is also having the value of A as 100 and the value of B as 22, and next the object OB3 which is having the value of A and B as -1 and -1. So now we are actually kind of calling this equals to function inside the system.out.println, and whatever boolean value this function is going to return, that will be kind of we can say printed. And how this function is being called, here is kind of a little trick. So we have called this function as ob1 dot equals to, and within the bracket ob2. So here ob1 is the calling function which is the calling object which is calling the function equals to, and the object which we have passed inside the equals to as your kind of parameter is ob2, and in the next statement we have asked for ob1 dot equals to ob3. And by the functionality which we have written of this function equals to, it is going to check for the first statement, it will check ob1 dot A is equals to ob2 dot A. That means the value of the variable A of the calling object and of the passed object, also the value of the variable B of the calling object as well as of the called object passed object is equals, then it is going to return true. So OB1 and OB2 are having similar values of the variables a and b, which are 100 and 22. So obviously this is going to return true, while the next statement, which is trying to compare the value of OB1 and OB3, where OB1 is the calling object and OB3 is the passed object, or the object which is being passed as the parameter. So OB1 dot equals to OB3 is going to give us false. So this program is going to generate this output, that OB1 equals to OB2, which is a string in system.out.println true, and for the next statement OB1 equals to OB3, this is going to give us false. So from this particular program, what we have kind of seen. So we have seen that we have taken one equals to method, inside which we have passed one reference of the class test, and this method is actually comparing two objects for equality and returning the result. And which two objects are being compared? That is the invoking object and the object which is being passed, and the parameter O, which we have kind of passed in, equals to specify the test as its type, because it is the reference type of the class test. So basically the bottom line of this particular program is that we have passed the reference type in the similar manner as we are passing Java's built-in types. So the manner or the syntax in which they are being passed, we can say is yes, kind of similar, but is it actually kind of similar to the passing of the primitives and the passing of the reference? Are these two kind of technically similar processes? That we will be covering in our upcoming slides. But before going further, we need to see one more I can say usage of these passing objects as parameters, and that too passing objects as parameters not to the normal methods but to the constructor. So constructor we have already seen, and how we are going to pass the objects as parameter, that we have also seen. And here in this topic we are actually going to I can say club these two concepts. So as you have seen that one of the most common uses of object parameters, object parameters involve constructor, because in order to construct a new object, we need some parameters to be passed, and it is a perfectly possible scenario that whenever sometimes when we want to construct a new object, we want it to be same as one of the existing objects. So we are going to define a constructor that takes an object of its class as the parameter, and here we will be using the concept of passing objects as parameters to constructor. So here we will be taking that the earlier version of the box class, and within that box class in the earlier version, if you can recall, we have used one parameterized constructor with 3 parameters, one constructor with no dimension specified, that we have also seen, which is kind of taking care of the default constructor call. Another we have used when one particular or only one variable is being passed, which is giving us the flavor of a cube, because all the values of width, height and depth are equal. So these 3 versions of constructor we have already kind of seen in our previous program, but here in this class we are going to add one more constructor, and that constructor is going to take the object of or the reference of the class box, and here it is. So we have class box width, height, depth, and the new thing which is this constructor, it is going to take an object of the type box. So please see it very carefully. So box is the name of the constructor, that within the parenthesis we have written box and OB. So OB is actually the reference type of the class box, or simply we can say it is the object of the type box. So a constructor is taking object of the type box, and whatever is the width of OB is given to the width of the kind of I can say calling object or invoking object here, because it is not a normal method which is being called by the object. So it is kind of a constructor which is being invoked whenever the creation of object is taking place. So that width I am talking about, width is equals to OB dot width, height is equals to OB dot height, and depth is equals to OB dot depth. And OB is actually the name of the reference object, or the object I can say of this class box. And after that we have that old constructor of ours which is having 3 parameters. Then we have a constructor which is having no dimension specified, no parameters at all, and then a constructor with 1 parameter which is helping us in creation of I can say cube. And finally a volume method which is returning the value of width, height and depth, and that is a simple instance method we can say. Now in order to use all these constructors, so here we have in this program we have a flavor of an overloaded constructor, because 4 constructors are there, out of which one is behaving like a default constructor, one is actually behaving others are behaving like parameterized constructor, and within those parameterized constructor one is actually accepting objects as the parameter types. So I can say all kind of flavors of constructor we have given in this particular program. Now in order to use this, we will be kind of taking a main function within a class, and let's see what we are going to do with all these constructor. So here we will be creating boxes using all these constructor, and how are we going to do that? Let's see that. So we have box my box 1 is equals to new box 10 20 15. This is a familiar kind of we can say statement to us. This is actually calling the first I mean a parameterized constructor with 3 variables. Then on the next statement, box my box 2 is equals to new box, again a familiar statement which is actually calling the default constructor. Then box my cube is equals to new box 7, that this is also we have seen calling the version of the constructor which is helping us in creation of a cube. What is actually new here in this program is box my clone, or whatever you want to have the reference name, is equals to new box. Now please notice the parameter within this constructor. The parameter within this constructor is actually a reference type which is being already created at the at a previous line. So box my clone is equals to new box within the bracket my box 1, and my box 1 is actually kind of I can say is already being created. So what is happening here, by the virtue of the definition of this constructor which is accepting objects as a parameter, a copy of my box 1 will be created. Now how this copy of my box 1 will be created? So here we have 2 kind of reference variables, one is my clone and another one is my box 1. So my box 1 is actually kind of we can say the past one, and my clone is being created, and within the kind of constructor we have used width is equals to OB dot width, and this OB is actually the one which is being passed, which is my box 1. So width of my clone which is being created will be equals to width of my box 1. Similarly, height of my clone which is actually being created at this particular time will be equals to the height of height of my box 1 which is being passed, and similar values or the similar statement will go with the depth. So that means a copy of my box 1 is actually created, and then with the help of our volume variable we have taken the volume of first which is my box 1 dot volume, then the volume of second which is my box 2 dot volume. We have printed it also. Similarly for the third one, my cube dot volume, and we have also done it for the fourth one, which is volume is equals to my clone dot volume. And now what are we expecting is that volume of the clone and the volume of my box 1 should be kind of similar. And yes, we can say whenever you are going to get the output of this particular program, this is going to give you the similar volume of clone and your my box 1, because using whenever this clone was being created, that time one copy of that my box 1 is actually created in the form of the clone. Now, before going into this constructor which are using or which are taking objects as parameters, we have initialized the discussion about the primitives being passed as call by value and the reference types being passed as call by reference. So, first of all let us take a quick look at what actually this call by value and call by reference is. I am sure you all are familiar with because these are kind of now these are kind of very trivial terms, but still we will take a quick recap in order to bridge it. So, when we say call by value, that means the value of an argument will be copied into the formal parameter, and therefore, whatever changes you are going to make to the parameter of the method will have no effect on the actual argument, because a copy of the argument is being created. When we talk about call by reference, a reference to an argument, not the value to the argument is passed to the parameter, and reference is used to access the actual argument specified in the call. Now, which reference I am talking about? Please recall the figure which we have used in we can say when we were just creating, we have started just creation of the objects. So, for example, when we are saying box OB is equals to new box, so this OB is actually a kind of a reference to the object of the class box, which is actually pointing towards that. So, when are we talking about call by reference? A reference is used to access the actual argument specified in the call. That means whatever changes we are going to make into the parameter, that changes will affect the original object also. And Java uses call by value to pass all the arguments. The precise effect differs between whether a primitive type is being passed or a reference type is being passed. Whenever we have a primitive type to a method, it is passed by value. That means a copy of the argument is made. So, what occurs to the parameter within the subroutine will have no effects outside the method. So, whatever changes are being taken place within the parameter, that will have no effect. So, here if we want to see the demonstration of this pass by value in case of primitive types, let us see here. So, we have a class test which is having a method with two parameters, and whatever these parameters are, so simply we can say I is equals to I multiplied by 2 and j is equals to j multiplied by 2. So, the parameters are kind of getting modified within this math function, and when we are going to call this, so this is actually seeing what. So, we have a public static void main in which we have created an object OB of the class test, and we have two integer variables, integer a is equals to 15 and b is equals to 15, and we have printed the value of a and b before the call. Then we are going to pass this a and b into that math function, and which is actually kind of printing, which is actually taking, which is we can say going what it is doing. It is actually modifying the value of I and j, if you can see, and I and j are nothing but the parameters. So, here we have seen this math which is taking I and j, and I is equals to I multiplied by 2 and j is equals to j multiplied by 2, and here we have seen that this A and B are being passed to that method, and this method is actually tweaking, or this method is actually kind of distorting the value, changing the value. A is A multiplied by 2 and B is B multiplied by 2, and after taking place, after execution of this method, we have also kind of printed the values again. So A and B before the call were 15 and 20, and why? Because everything is happening as a call by value, not call by reference. That means whatever changes you have done on A and B within this method will not be reflected on the original parameters A and B. So the values of A and B before the call and the values of A and B after the call of meth will be similar, and the output of this program will be like this. A and B before the call will be 15 and 20, and A and B after the call will also be like 15 and 20. And within these two system.out.println statements, we have executed meth statement. But that whatever change is being done within that meth function is not being reflected onto A and B. Why? Because these are actually kind of passed by value. That means another copy of the variables A and B is being created, and whatever changes were kind of taken place was done on those copy, and objects are passed. Now here we talked about A and B as the primitive types, right? Now the second scenario says that we have these reference types, or we can simply say objects, which are passed, and these are passed by call by reference. So call by reference says whenever a variable of the class type is being called, being created, you are only creating a reference to an object, and we are passing this reference to a method, and whatever changes will be done inside the method onto that reference will be actually kind of reflected onto the original object. So the object acts as if they are passed to the method by use of call by reference, and changes to the object inside the method do affect the changes, do affect the objects used as an argument. So let us see here. So here we have that similar class test and the constructor test, which is kind of initializing the value of the variables A and B. And now within this method meth, the earlier version was taking two primitives. Here it is taking an reference of the class test, and now it is saying O dot A is equals to O dot A multiplied by 2, and O dot B is equals to O dot B multiplied by 2. That means A and B, which are being referred, are actually kind of referred through that particular O, and they are belonging to a particular object. And whenever we are going to see the value of this variable A and B before the calling of this method OB, and after the calling of this method OB, is actually given in this main function. So here main, we have test OB is equals to new test 15 and 20, printing the value of A and B, which is actually OB dot A and OB dot B. Now these are not kinds of the variables which are not tied to any object there. And then OB dot meth and OB is actually passed onto this. So OB being a reference type is passed as call by reference, and after the call of this method meth, we will be again printing OB dot A and OB dot B, and the results will be OB dot A and OB dot B before the call are 15 and 20, while OB dot A and OB dot B after the call are 30 and 10. So that means 15 multiplied by 2 is 30, value of A is being doubled and value of B is being kind of halved, we can say. So the bottom line is whatever changes we are going to kind of do inside the routine onto the parameter which is being passed by reference will be reflected into the original parameter. So when an object reference is passed to a method, the reference itself is passed by the use of call by value. However, since the value being passed refers to an object, the copy of that value will still refers to the same object. That means, and that its corresponding argument does. So this is something what I was talking about, that Java is actually using, you know, kind of an hybrid kind of a method, because object reference when passed is passed by using call by value, but that itself is in reference. So that call by reference is coming into the picture also. So here in this lecture we have seen overloading of, you know, constructor, then we have seen passing objects as parameters, then passing objects as parameters into the constructor, and then we have understood the Java technicalities of call by reference and call by value, which is being, you know, kind of a differing line between the parameters which are primitives when they are passed and parameters which are reference when they are passed. And here is a list of references which is being used for the preparation of lecture. Hope you had a fruitful learning. I'll see you in the next lecture. Till then, take care. Goodbye.